Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader here. It's Damien. This is my hopefully weekly comic book thoughts video where I just give you thoughts on comic books I've read this week. I will continue with the countdown style. I've got 12 comic books here that I bought this past Wednesday. They're comics from this release this past week, and I will rank them in order of my personal pleasure in reading them, starting with number 12 and counting up to number 1. I seem to have fun doing it. People seem to have fun seeing me rank comics. It's all very subjective. And with this pile, I constantly kept moving them around. Well, maybe that's my favorite. I pretty much enjoyed everything I read. And it didn't stack out as it sometimes do in obvious, very peak best reads and then middling ones and then ones near the bottom. It didn't work out that way. So, but you know what? Before I go any further, I just want to shout out the Comic Corp, a YouTube channel that's kind of a group channel for a bunch of people who've become friends here on YouTube. And I don't even know the full story of how they started or their full plans, but they've been doing this incredible thing, which is some auctions and other fundraisers for a young girl named Moyra, whose parents need a little extra help because she has had some major heart surgery. And so when they did some auctions, I didn't end up buying any comics, so I went ahead and donated directly to their GoFundMe. And for anyone who wants to check that out, I'm going to put the GoFundMe down below. It's just really awesome that the Comic Corp devoted a lot of their time and donated a lot of their comics. So that's like donating money, really, to help out and spread the word about helping Moyra. And I just really love it when people do things like that. So super thumbs up to them. They also did an awesome job with kind of doing coverage of the Baltimore Comic-Con with live videos. That looked like it must have been pretty hard and complicated to me. They interviewed some pretty major people like Marv Wolfman and Joe Staten and many others. And it was just fun seeing them have fun at the con, to tell you the truth. That's what it's all about, I think. Just sharing experiences, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so I'm going to share my subjective experiences with these comics. And coming in at number 12 was Sarah and the Royal Stars. It's a miniseries. I do like this comic, so if there was another miniseries, I think I'd pick it up. Might be affected. This is issue 4. I think the last issue is issue 5, the next one. I can't see where this is going, and partially it's because there's elements that I don't understand or that seem to just come out of left field and aren't set up. And I think it's a complicated fantasy world and a complicated story involving myth and politics and family dynamics, and they just didn't have enough room, or maybe not enough skill to fit into this amount of room their full story. So you get a sense as you read along that there's too much missing. But it's still been a fun journey. Very good art, mostly good coloring, although looking at it in this video, it looks a little like they went too far with the heavy dark colors. But for the most part, nice color choices, and a nice package to read. Vault comics are nice physical floppies, so I really enjoy that. But so because of that sense of a little bit of confusion, it ranked lowest for me in this very good week. Another one that ranked low, there's nothing wrong with this. King Thor number 2. I think this is just 4 issues. It's a limited series, maybe 4, maybe 6. I'm not sure. It has the feeling of it's going to be one long fight with Loki, Gore the God Butcher, and old King Thor at the kind of the end of time, the end days of the universe, where almost everybody and everything is dead. But somehow King Thor and Loki and Gore kind of comes back from the dead, I guess, and King Thor's 3 granddaughters are still alive. But Asgard itself is destroyed. And there's something about if it's really the end of the universe, it doesn't seem, I mean, there's kind of a melancholy sadness about the end of the universe, but all things end eventually, right? It's how you live between the beginning and the end. So to me, it has less impact with that kind of setting. And although I appreciate a 4-issue fight, it doesn't make it like a top comic. So that's why it ranked at number 11. Isaac Ribic is really at his best here. I really enjoyed a lot of these settings. I think he enjoys this kind of cosmic fighting and crazy, weird mythological characters and stuff. 2 books in a row with mythological characters. The coloring also looks very nice, I'm realizing as I flip through it. Probably the kind of stuff that will look even better digitally, I'm afraid. Ives Forcina is the color artist. I think he frequently works with Isaac Ribic. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to future issues and everything, but I'm just not as excited as I might be if it were more layered. Maybe there's hidden layers here that if I had completed Jason Aaron's Thor run, I would catch more of it. I mean, I did read the whole very early part about Gore the God Butcher, and I have every issue of Jason Ribic's various Thor titles in his run, but I haven't read them all. I fell off the wagon there, and I have so many to catch up with now, and I decided I'll just go ahead and jump on King Thor, and that works pretty well. In at number 10 is Savage Dragon, number 246. They're making a big deal that he's coming up on 250, but that's still a ways away. It's 4 months away. Not that far away. I was thinking it was 6 months away. This was a good issue. It was not as notable as some Savage Dragons. Again, why it comes in at 10. I mean, I had a great time reading it. It has Captain Tootsie kind of coming back more. I thought Captain Tootsie would just go away, but he's kind of a visually cool character. It seems kind of weird to have someone called Captain Tootsie, but the weird thing is here that we have a sudden twist of just kind of on the spur of the moment. Savage Dragon Malcolm decides to kill the bad guy, or maybe he even didn't decide to kill him. I don't know. So I'm curious where Eric Larson is going to go with this next. The issue itself was fine, but I am curious with what he set up now. What is this a major turning point in Malcolm Dragon's life? Second Coming comes up at number 9. Second Coming number 4. Wow, we've had 4 issues of this already. I am liking this comic more than when it first started, where it kind of irritated me. I think, judging from the message of the comic since that first issue, it's a very pro-Jesus comic, I would say. And what it might be is anti a lot of interpretations of Jesus, particularly, like things are mentioned here, like things really went downhill when the Roman Empire decided to make me their official god. That Jesus is not part of the establishment. He is not part of whatever political or social order people want to put on his teachings and warp them. And so there's a lot about that. I mean, this could be like a comic book that Martin Luther would have written against the Roman Catholic Church back in the day, which had gotten so far away from Jesus' teachings. And I say that as someone who's brought up as Roman Catholic, but I can see the point of Martin Luther at that time. So it feels like that, with some kind of spoofs about superheroes and how the other superheroes might feel about Superman, this bearded Batman character. It starts out in a therapy group for superheroes, I guess, that they all go to. And this Batman-like character throws a boomerang. Anyway, it was quite funny. That part was quite funny. I think I got kind of bogged down in all the religious talk about Jesus. It was fine, but it wasn't reading that excited me very much. I didn't disagree with any of the presentation of stuff, and the funnier bits were the bits about the superheroes. So it's kind of weird that it's maybe ending up a joke on superheroes and a serious comic about the teachings of Jesus. I don't know. Time will tell, I guess, if it keeps going in that direction. It's kind of hard to predict some of these, weirder comics out there. Okay, so what was that? That was 12, 11, 10, 9. And in at number 8 was a very fun issue of Valkyrie. And it has a lot of elements that remind me of the good old school stuff in Marvel. How to dealing with your job, dealing with problems when you have a flying horse living in your apartment, dealing with people misunderstanding you, different super people misunderstanding each other. There's a very cool Doctor Strange tie-in here. And so it's just a fun comic. My only thing that kind of drags it down for me, there's this really excellent art by Cafu, one name artist. Is Cafu also the colorist? No, there's a color artist. So the color artist plays a big role. As you can see, it almost looks like paintings. So the color artist is Abertoff. So the art looks nice, but to me it didn't fit. I wanted more old school art. I wanted something that looked like Sal Buscema or something like that. Something less heavy, because the story itself, I think, is more a fun comic booky story. It might have been fun to even have little, rather than these heavy woe is me kind of thoughts in the caption boxes, to have some light, snappy Stan Lee patter going on in here. That would have fit for me. But anyway, I really enjoyed this issue, and I'm looking forward to what happens next. So another cool thing is that now we understand that that the reanimated Grim Reaper, which is, I guess I don't know everything that's been going on with the Grim Reaper. He did get killed and maybe even chopped up back in the Vision. That's the last time I've seen the Grim Reaper. He is now trying to become a Valkyrie, being guided by, is that Satan or someone named Devilish? I'm not sure. But this stuff was fun with this devil character manipulating this reanimated Grim Reaper to try to get his own Valkyrie. Tommy Gun Wizards number 3. And apparently this is only going to go for 4 issues, or maybe it'll be one of those things with 4 issues, then a break, then some more issues. I hope so, because I feel like we've just begun to explore the ideas in here about the Al Capone and Elliot Ness in a world of taboo magic. And there's a whole subplot about a giant toad, which is looking like it's going to be pretty cool. Other than that, I really have no new thoughts on this since I talked about issue 1 and 2. It's a cool story, well written, art that tells the story but is nothing spectacular, but some pretty spectacular coloring, and then some really cool few pages of artwork at the end by Christian Ward himself, the writer on most of it, and just artists on these little back matter stories that are usually, I think, 3 pages maybe, or 4 pages. But cool. I guess find this in your back issue bins or grab the trade when it comes out soon. It's definitely something different and fun and cool. So what was that? That was number 7. At number 6 is Justice League Dark. After the last issue of Justice League Dark, I was thinking I'll probably end up ranking this kind of low. I felt like I was starting to get bored with the story. It's just been going on so long. It's kind of like the story seems to end, but then no, there's something more, and there's another arc of it, which is of various people trying to be the ones who either stop all magic or control all magic in the world or change all magic in the world. Right now it's, is it Cersei? I think it's Cersei. Boy, I've been confused or was it Cersei before and now it's, it is, now it's not Cersei, it's, what's her name? This is where I'd like to shut off the video, but I've gone on so long already. Well, anyway, it was such a cool issue, so much fun, and such good art. I could have ranked it higher. I just ended up putting it here at number 6. And I really enjoyed it. The color was really good. I really like it when the word balloons are colored too. I think that's a really cool effect, at least for a character like that. Now that I think about it, the lettering was very good here too. So, and it's, even though it's this dark, serious story, there's lots of fun quips from various characters, especially from Detective Chimp. So James Tynion makes really good use of his cast of characters. And so where I thought I would finally be bored of this kind of endless struggle between magic users, instead I was delighted once again. I hear from listening to Longbox Reviews podcast that Tynion will be leaving this book in December, or is it in January? He'll be leaving this book at some point. And it's hard to imagine this comic without James Tynion on it. He's moving on to do Batman, and I guess that may be twice a month, so it may keep him too busy to keep writing this one. I don't know if they'll even continue it. But yeah, you can just see it's, if you like the kind of magic stories, it's a bit irresistible. Let me get a drink. Got to gather my thoughts. I guess if I were smart, I'd do a few comics, cut it, then come back, do a few more, and then I could edit it all together. But I am not smart. I am not savvy. So, in at number 5, and this was actually my most problematic comic in terms of where to rank it, is Hulk 25. They made it in kind of a special double-size issue or so. I think it's actually 36 or 38 pages of actual art and story, and then they've got those other pages where they just... I don't think it costs them anything to do this. Well, it costs them the paper, but they don't pay any writer or artist for those pages, I believe. So basically a 38-page story for $6 rather than a 20-page story for $4. And so I could have easily ranked Tommy Gunn, Wizards, and Justice League Dark over it, because when I actually read it, I found it a little disappointing. But the funny thing is, as I thought about it more afterwards, I liked it more. And so I'm ranking it higher at number 5. But not, Hulk usually comes in at number 1 or number 2 for me if there's another number 1-ish kind of book at the time. But it's always one of my top books. And I think what happened here is they had, or Al Ewing, the writer, or perhaps whoever's involved in the plotting, maybe the editor is too, they had this bit of backstory on something that's going to happen in future issues of the Hulk, and they decided to use this very large issue to give us that backstory of a detail that's going to play up later, so that most of this comic takes place in the far future where the universe is dead. There's one planet left, and it's about to be destroyed. So just like in that Thor thing, we're at the very end of the universe. And, well, spoilers here, so if you really don't want to know anything about this comic and you're reading Hulk, just skip ahead till you don't see me holding up the Hulk anymore. But spoilers here, the Hulk, a giant mindless version of the Hulk, has destroyed the entire universe. That's a lot of planets and stars to destroy. Billions and billions, trillions and trillions and trillions if you're the whole universe. So it could take a long time. So what this tells us, though, and then there's something here that gets sent back to the past to somehow change change this future. So what we get, one, is that the Hulk that we're following now is somehow going to lead up to this mindless Hulk that's bigger than planets, that's only purpose is to destroy the universe. And so if we're thinking that the Hulk is partially good, no, he's totally evil, totally bad. I suppose bad to the ultimate level, the destroyer of the universe. Unless later we find out he has a really good reason for doing that, and it will lead to something good, like maybe a next better universe. But to get there, to get to all that, we have, 36 pages where we're in this strange alien science fiction future with no humans, these really cool kind of looking, extremely alien aliens. They don't even have hands. I eventually understood that these things floating near them are what they use as hands. Manipulators, I think they call them. It's kind of a hard issue to read because you have to just dive into a whole new universe. If you're a really experienced science fiction reader, you might be used to that a bit, where you're plunged into the world of an alien or a robot or something, and you have to understand how everything works and pick out the pieces as you go along. And if you're patient with it and you read it all carefully, you do come to understand what's going on. But it is a lot of work, and it's like you were expecting a Hulk story, and you're not getting a Hulk story here. It ties into the Hulk, and eventually you get the Hulk as the ultimate monster of the entire universe, which is kind of a cool idea and kind of a troubling one, depending on what you'd like the Hulk to be. So it definitely has me intrigued for future issues of the Immortal Hulk, and has me feeling that there's a lot more to come. But as a individual issue, it's kind of a frustrating piece. And there was maybe about 16 single or double page spreads. So a lot of space used up. And maybe you can argue that's because it's supposed to all be on this cosmic, galactic, universal level. So they gave you a sense of that with these giant pictures. But on the other hand, you could kind of feel like, well, this is a little bit of backstory, and I had to pay a whole lot extra for it, and I thought I was getting a special issue of the Hulk. So anyway, that's where it goes. I'm still super excited for the Immortal Hulk series as a whole, and expect many more issues from that to be up in the number one spot. Whew, too much talking. Blabbing reader. So, Vault's Resonance by, actually I never really noticed the authors here. And it's hard to read the names of the authors on the cover. Anyway, from Vault, this comic Resonant, I really loved it. It's got wonderful art and coloring, really wonderful. Surprising when you think that a comic book company like this must have a much lower budget than someone like Marvel or DC, but they really don't seem to be skimping on the art. It does have a kind of an indie look in that sense. So the writer is David Andre, the artist or the line artist is Alexandro Aragon, and the colorist is Jason Wordy. And the lettering's good too, although I haven't really thought about that. The letterer is Daron Bennett. But it's an incredibly nicely done comic. It's very scary and disturbing without, being ultra violent like something like Coffin Bound, but it's very disturbing and creepy, and I don't know, touches on a lot of different things about human nature that are disturbing, and it's supposed to just be a 5-issue series, and I don't know how they're going to wrap it up by issue 5, but I'm very excited to see what they do. It makes me wonder if it's going to be, if issue 5 can be that good, if they try to wrap up too much at once. It feels like things are not going to end well for most of our lead characters. So we'll see. But that excellent book. In at number 3, one of my favorite books, particularly of the last 2 years. I think to a certain degree I've read so much Kaiju Max now. This is issue 1, season 5. Each season's been 6 issues, And each season's been very dense, fascinating, brilliant at times, clever, funny, disturbing, depressing. And that's all still here, but it's maybe more familiar. So maybe, if this were more fresh to me, it would be at number 1, because he's definitely kept up the quality, and he's not in a rush to throw new elements in. He just slowly is weaving new elements in. We're back at the men's prison, but now we're kind of looking at death row, which is interesting. They hadn't talked about capital punishment before. It was all just about incarceration. And we also get one of interesting plot thread about some aliens from what claim to be a super advanced society who just want them to do a retrial on one of the monsters that they've convicted to a death penalty. And but they've sent their message on old-fashioned TV waves, and no one watches TV anymore. But when some of the prison guards find an old TV and find this broadcast, the person they show it to has a very personal involvement in this thing they want to fix. And if the aliens who are making this request are telling the truth, they're going to give us humanity a universal cure for all diseases and injuries if we do the retrial of this one monster. So I thought that was really cool, and that's just a little thread of what's going on in here. So I still highly recommend Kaiju Max. If you get it in trades, I would say read one chapter, then take a break, let it rest a bit, then come back. Because each issue is so dense, in a good way, with material. Okay, in at number 2, and it might be kind of I'm rooting always for Criminal to be my number 1 comic. I'm, in general, really enjoying Criminal, and Simon and Brubaker, Brubaker and Phillips, Sean Phillips, their recent comics. I've really loved them all. Oddly, this cover does not do much for me, and it looks very different than covers we've seen in the past. Maybe Sean Phillips was just tired of doing covers the way he has in the past, or was he in a rush? I don't know. But this current story arc in Criminal has been about, sort of centered around this woman that what's his name, Lawless, is in a relationship, and how it affects his son and the other people around him. And each issue we've had from a different person's point of view, but not the same events from different points of view. Events are moving forward. So this time, surprisingly, it was from the point of view of this fellow Leo, who's been kind of a supporting character in many other, or background character in many other Criminal things. And this is Leo as a young teenager. But it was a really cool story. I really enjoyed it. Not a lot more to add than that. I thought the coloring, some of these issues I noticed more than others that the coloring is a little less potent than it once was with a new colorist. I thought this issue was colored very well. So not a whole lot more to say about that. It's just the layers keep piling up on this storyline, and it's becoming very rich. And if they pull it off all the way to the end, and I think next issue is the end of this little arc, it'll be a really great arc or a great thing to read in a trade. So really enjoying that. Okay, that was number 2. Kaiju Max was number 3, if I didn't say that before. And in at number 1, surprising myself, but not too much, is Freedom Fighters number 10. And my pleasure of this, Kaiju Max and Criminal are much more what I would call, peak level comics than the Freedom Fighters. Not to put Freedom Fighters down at all, because it is an excellent comic, and it has excellent writing and excellent art. How can you not like that? Especially if you're like an action superhero kind of reader. It's very dark. It's not too gory. I like the level of darkness and the way it approaches the darkness. The artists are really getting into it, and Robert Venditti, the writer, is keeping all the elements going and keeping that energy up. It's amazing how well he's kept the energy level up, the action level up for just about every issue of Freedom Fighters. It's going to be a 12-issue maxi series. This is issue 10, and I don't know. I just really loved it. It looks like poor Condor, the African American hero, has yet again had to make a big sacrifice. There's kind of a storytelling cliche out there where the African American has to make the greatest sacrifice. We'll see if it really works out that way or not. But what he had to do makes a lot of sense, and is also kind of a cool twist in the book. And I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. And our evil foes just got eviler. They seem to be on the rocks. But anyway, so I think I just wanted a good, exciting issue. When you compare this like to the Thor issue with just the endless fight, this one is kind of an endless fight, but with all kinds of layers of stuff going on with the good guys and the bad guys that just makes it much more interesting. This is peak fun comics, fun action comics, for those of us who like that kind of thing. So, another long one. I was hoping another goal of mine, along with doing these weekly, is to keep them down to about 15 minutes. But I see that's quite the work in progress. But I will be back soon. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.